So the link is in the to join the if you want to give your piece on it, if you saw the debate or not. Is evolution compatible with Genesis? Was the title. It was Michael Jones from Inspiring Philosophy versus Dr. Ross. I'm not. I know I'm somewhat familiar with him. I just don't recall his full name. Just kind of did this on the fly. Uh, so yeah, if anybody else comes in, let them know the link is pinned if you're in the chat. Thanks for coming. So one of the things that came up in the side chat of Captured Christianity's conference that this was um, live from, by the way, I think, from Houston, Texas, and the link for that for the debate is in the description of the video here. And so it was Psalm 104, and this is something that's come up in the past. So I'm going to read that, and I'll put it up on the screen just to start it off, because this is an interesting question. Young Earth creation. Oh, hello.
Yo, what's going on?
Hey, good to see you. Are you the person with the same picture, right, in the chat?
Well, say that again.
Are you LSR86?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, cool. Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. So you thought maybe you feel that 104.639 is about Noah's flood. So I'll pull it up and maybe you can give your case. Like, and by the way, I do think it's talking about what happened at the flood. To be clear, I just think the fact of the matter is that it's pretty undeniable that it's using the literary structure of Genesis creation week, and that does correlate to one of the days. But let's look at it.
I can see that.
And so I find this really fascinating, actually, because if you read the literature on this between old earthers and young earthers, like they don't want to give any they don't seem to want to give any at all, and it's really like one or the other sort of thing. And I get it, that's kind of my feeling was for at first too. But when I read some scholarship on it, I felt like to deny that, right, it would be dishonest, or I guess is what I had to admit. And so how we reconcile that is kind of interesting, right? Because of how the old earthers will use this. I'll pull up.
I'm turning it down. All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. I was just saying, I think if we got it, this is like a good evidence or a good opportunity to, get like not be dogmatic, but still we can still hold our position. I think, in other words, but you'll see what I mean. I'll just read it and then we can talk about it. Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord, this is KJV. O Lord, my God, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty. Who covers thyself with light as with a garment, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain. I think that you could probably find that being referenced elsewhere as well, in maybe
Yeah,
Exodus or.
I don't deny that this definitely has Genesis like creation, like you said, literature. All I'm saying is that verses 6 through 9, to me, and this is just my opinion, it clearly describes Noah's flood. I mean, if you can go to verse 6, or you can just keep reading
Yeah,
to verse 9, whichever you
yeah,
prefer.
I'll read to it and then I'll stop. Who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters? Who maketh the clouds his chariot? Who walketh upon the wings of the wind? Who maketh his angels spirits his ministers of flaming fire? Who laid the foundations of the earth that it should not be removed forever? Thou coverest it with the deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. At thy rebuke they fled. At the voice of thy thunder they hasted away. They go up the mountains. They go down by the valleys into the places which thou hast founded for them. Thou hast set a bound that they may not pass over. That this is the key verse that people are going to fight over. Thou hast set a bound that they may not pass over, that they turn not again to cover the earth. Now, if the old earth creationists are right, obviously, uh, then he set boundaries before the flood came, right? So that's the point. Like, that's the big contention, right? And I say, no,
I
this
don't
is
see
talking.
how that they could even make that point, though, because it says that they turn not again to cover the earth. Meaning that when Noah's flood happened, he, obviously the waters receded, he made the promise, okay? And it says that they turn not again to cover the earth. So I feel like here it's to me it's referring to that promise. And that could only mean that it is Noah's flood that we're talking about here in verses 6 through 9.
Yeah, I agree. It has to have some connection there. 1 second. Can you hear my background noise real bad?
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Okay, so I'll try to. Okay, so so yeah, I agree with you there, right? But like, if we keep reading on, like, I'm just trying to make a case for the other side here a little bit. Um, we see the fowls here, the birds, and let's see, what do they say? Like the it's clearly following this kind of the pattern of the days of creation, right? And like he lays the foundations of the earth. Let's see what else what do they like to point out? I should pull up an article on this, but like if we say this is talking about God's creation, like when it's like, although I would point out, like, does it say anything about him covering himself with light as a garment anywhere other than like on at Sinai and things like that? I wonder. It's interesting. I'm just going
Yeah,
off the map.
I've read through it twice kind of quickly because like we were in the chat and I was trying to answer as soon as I could, but yeah, I'm not sure.
So like on day two, let's see. I should have pulled this up already, but I'm gonna pull up Genesis 2 in the back just for my own reference here. Um, okay. So it makes light day one. Light and darkness are separated, and then he said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters." Let's see. That's the second day. Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place. Let the dry land appear, and it was so. So day two is what they're. Aren't they suggesting it's day two, or are they saying it's day three?
Day 3.
Okay. That would be let the waters being gathered into one place. Let the dry land appear, and they're going to correlate that. And God called the dry land earth, gathering together the waters they called seas. And it talks about the grass also on the dry land. That's day three. Okay, so yeah, it kind of seems to me to be sound more like it's kind of two and three, right? But more day three, sure. So, so what do you do with this fact that it's following the pattern of creation then being described? What would you say to that? I mean,
Let me go
I've seen
back.
this by scholars before, and it's like it's uncanny, like the language in the Hebrew that it's clearly following that weekly thing. So, I mean, what do we do with that? I
Well, I
would
mean,
say, yeah, go ahead.
after verse 9, I mean, everything seems to be after the flood, right? I mean, he's just talking about the springs and the valleys. They flow among the hills. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. The birds of the heavens have a home. I mean, he's not really. I don't
Yeah,
see.
you could almost say like it almost has a feel like they're acknowledging God. They're kind of acknowledging the creation because they're acknowledging the text they know about God creating. But then they're also just talking about the water cycle and how the rain falls and it flows into the rivers and back into the sea, sort of thing, right? Like we see in Job or other places. And how that God's provider, in other words, because the first verse starts out with, bless the Lord, O my soul, that thou art very great and are clothed with honor and majesty. And now they're describing the things he does to take care of his creation, whether it be creating it or right feeding it, watering it, sort of thing. I don't know. Just everything about Earth, I would say, is kind of in view here. This doesn't sound so. Yeah, like you said, it sounds like it's after the flood, right, or after that's going on here.
Yeah, it just sounds like. I mean, at the beginning, like verses 1 through 5, I think it's talking about. It's a very, very quick, brief creation account, if you will. And then 6 through 9, in my opinion, is Noah's flood. And then after that, it's just you read it and it's just talking about life after the flood. I mean, normal life. Like I don't see anything after Noah's flood here where it pertains to the creation account.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up a thing because I'm not giving a very good. I think you're right. I think there's a lot of things going on here, and that the Hebrews used. The psalmist was familiar with the Hebrew scriptures, so that's not surprising. You see that in Isaiah, even like he goes through the days of creation kind of as a model or like a structure to follow. So and I would expect so, right? It's because that's how they had connection, to what God's done and who He is and things like that. And so, like all of the Bible's doctrines are linked back to Genesis. I mean, in so many ways, right? So much is based off of Genesis, it seems to me. But yeah, that's a good point. I think. Give me a second. What did you think about the debate, by the way? Did you see much of it?
Honestly, I mean, I like IP, Inspiring Philosophy. I really like him. He's helped me with a lot of questions that I had at the beginning of my, like when I first became a Christian. But there's two things that I don't agree with IP on. That's evolution and um, old Earth creation. Now, I'm not super dogmatic about either old Earth or young Earth. I lean towards young Earth, but when it comes to evolution, I can't get behind that whatsoever. So I felt like Dr. Ross walked away with the dub, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he did well. Like, I think
I felt
some of
like
the things that
IP
people
was redefining words just to suit his narrative. That's just my opinion.
do you do you think well yeah because I have like this a similar that would be my similar thing I would say about IP what you said pretty much I don't nothing you said that I disagree with actually about what you said there. That's how I feel. I think he's really smart and he's done some really good work right on his channel, and I'm going to be interviewing
Absolutely.
him next week actually if all goes well, God willing. Yeah, he's agreed to do it, and we set a time. So in other words, and so I put it
What are
in
y'all
my
going to talk
video.
about? Just whatever.
Um, I'm not sure yet because I haven't checked with him or whatever, so I want to be careful. But probably idealism and physicalism because I'm a physicalist in a certain kind of way, in a weird way. And then also I wanted to talk to him about some of the videos he's done on young Earth creationism and the Sabbath, and probably uh, and then but mainly just interview him, just about himself or whatever to start with. But those are the things I was wanting to talk to him about, and maybe about like soteriology and the role of the Old Testament law for Christians, and see how he thinks about some of that. I'm still watching all of the stuff he's done on that on his channel, so. But I'm not sure. I'm sure we won't do all of those things. So I don't know. I got to check with him, but if he's still going to be able to do it. Um, yeah, it's set for like the 10th at like 4 Pacific time so far. And I think he agreed to that. So, but yeah, I would say the same thing as far as the debate went. I think that some of it was a little like in a weird way too formal or something. Like it would have been nice to just like let them kind of go back and forth and just moderate it a little more like we do online all the time. But it's like they're doing it live, like before an audience. So I mean, it didn't go bad or anything. I just think maybe more time could have been used to develop the points and kind of work it out between each other. I was going to give criticism, although I do think I don't know. People are so like I'm decided on this. Like I don't. It would be very hard for me to ever change my mind if I'm honest. Like I'm, with the young Earth thing, partly or mostly because of how I understand the Bible, and that's based largely on the way I was taught it and the way I see it, and I've like really looked at it a lot. I mean, I can't say I've read all the old Earth stuff, but I have looked at it, and I think they have lots of insights that are valuable to be given, from the text. And I've gained a lot of, blessing from that in the sense of like the things they pointed out about the literary structure and the context of the ancient Near East. I don't have any problem with that stuff. I think that stuff it should be more freely adopted within the young Earth creationist you know community or whatever. We're often too rigid and reject stuff right off without being open-minded in a good way, I guess is what I'm saying. It sounds like you're not like really stiffly decided on this issue or whatever, right?
Well, if I had to make a choice, I would choose young Earth creation. But I do feel like there is room for in the Hebrew language specifically, and I'm talking about the word day. Uh, I mean, it could be that it wasn't actually 6 literal days. It could be. Now, I lean towards the fact that it is, but I could be wrong. And I mean, a lot of people who hold that view could be wrong. But like I said, when it comes to evolution, that is something that I cannot get behind. So, and but old Earth creation, I guess, could be true without the evolution. That's my opinion.
Why? Well, let me say one more thing about the debate too before we just start shooting the breeze. Seems like, you know, I'm not sure I followed exactly the dynamic during the debate, but it did feel like some of the things Mike was saying to Dr. Ross was a little bit like it wasn't he wasn't getting what he was saying. Like so, like when he went after him for taking Walton's view on the nature of the temple inauguration idea, which I actually largely think is somewhat true thematically. There, so you could say, I've heard his presentations on it. I haven't read his book, but I think there's something to that. But I still think there's like a primary meaning, so I'm gonna like insist. The story says 6 days, right? And so like anything beyond that is an inference of, as far as like in some sense there might be more going on there. In my opinion, and I'm almost certain there are, like to speaking to other matters and kind of predict even prophetically. But I think we should just take the story as it's written. Like it says it's a week, it says it's a day. The way day is used in context, just say it's a day. And if you think it's saying more, but that's a problem if you're old Earth, because then you're having to say, because they understand like the primary reading is supposed to be a literal explaining God creating, right? And so if the primary meaning is literal days, that's a problem for them, I think, and is what they're actually been doing historically, is kind of taking a weird hermeneutic where they're like reading secondary things and trying to say that's the primary meaning. And it's saying that literally, almost in a way, right? Like they're saying it literally is saying it's at long ages, and then I mean that's like what Hugh Ross is doing. I think he's like saying the day really means literally, is a literary usage of the word is long ages, and so he wants to make that the primary reading, and I think that's just an impossible task. I
I
think it would
think
be
what
better.
happens is that
Yeah, go
is
ahead.
that people.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
sorry to interrupt, but I think
No.
what happens is that people who are evolutionists come to the text with that in mind. So they're going to make scripture fit something that they already believe. You see what I mean? And so, like, obviously, evolution doesn't fit with a young Earth creation account, so it's going to be the old Earth creation account for them. Therefore, they're going to take the, I guess, non-literal view of the word day. And I think that's all that it is. It's just they come at it with a belief in evolution already. So they're going to make scripture fit that belief. And I think that's what IP does, to be honest. That's what most old Earth creationists do. And I guess the same could probably be said for young Earth creationists. I mean, we have a bias as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm firmly on the younger, like I said, on the younger side. I support people that are younger more than any other persons right out there. Although I will support others if that's not if their primary focus is old Earth creationism and disproving young Earth creationism. I'm probably not going to give them any financial support. But like, I still have given support to IP in the past, and I still do. Um, but I have lots of disagreements with him. In fact, you can see on Standing for Truth's channel, my friend CJ from the Synagogue channel has been doing rebuttals to some of the things he's presented, which I largely agree with. But I like to keep dialogue open between everybody, and that kind of comes and goes or whatever. But like you said, I think people want to make that like they want to act like it's saying it's not 6 days or whatever in the sense of how we understand it, like just naturally. And I think that's a mistake. I think John Lennox is a little more nuanced when he like talks about he'll say the same thing, like it's saying 6 days. And now what you want to do with that is fine, but don't pretend like it's not using that. I don't know. Maybe I'm confused about what exactly is going on there. I just think, hey, good to see you. Thanks for coming. I think um, you're better off if it, as an old earther to just take it literally as 6 days and then say it's not like supposed to be a narrative or something like that. Maybe some people do say that, I guess, but I think it's better to do that. And then, people do that with this Genesis with all sorts of stuff, like with Eve eating the fruit, and they come up with all these weird ideas. It's like, leave it as it is. It's saying she ate fruit. It's saying there was a snake. Another interesting thing I like to point out, I kind of agreed with Michael on this too about the Nakash. I accept Heiser's view on the Nakash thing. I don't think, I mean, you could say like Satan possessed a snake. I don't even know what that means though. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, I think it was a snake, whatever that exactly means. It has snake qualities, like he said, like the seraph of like the throne guardians. That was like a thing that people understood. I would argue that that's idea that the Egyptians had came from some truth about the true God's throne, and then it got perverted through history. But it's not wrong to say that it's partly related to this idea of like a seraph, which is like a snake-ish, like cobra throne guarding in a certain sense in the Egyptian culture, which they came out of, right? Moses did when he wrote the story down. So I think the word Nakash literally developed from the fact that Satan in the garden was a shining one and is a deceiver, essentially a deceiving thing, and then also has snake-like qualities. Although I'm not even sure, I just have a hunch about that, but I don't think that's a coincidence. Like, because like, how are we gonna put all that data into a coherent thought is regarding because like there's an Akkadian word for that has similar uses for like for like adjectives and verb and noun versions of the Hebrew word nakash. And so, and it's describing the same things and used the same way and has, I mean, like, that's not a coincidence. Like, and then the story does that. Like, so which came first, the Adam and Eve story with the snake and the snake deceiving them? Or, because like the snake the word nakash is used in like every way that describes the primordial story of the snake in the garden. So like, is it a coincidence that the word for a snake has those meanings to it in the Hebrew? Like, which came first, the word with its meanings, or the word, or did the word develop from the characteristics of the story, which is primordial? That's like kind of an interesting question if you kind of get what I'm saying. Like
Yeah,
everything.
honestly, there's just, um, man, the way I look at it, some things we just either we aren't meant to know, or God didn't think that it was important for us to know. You know what I mean? And when it comes to that, like, who knows? Who knows if it was an actual snake, um, or what? I have no idea.
Yeah, I would want to say like I do take the story as it sits. I just think, but I don't want to like ignore arguments that people have if they're good for other views, right? Like you're gonna have to really work hard to strip me of that view, but and I don't want to give somebody like a false idea that they can convince me, right? But like I don't want to ignore stuff either because that's just like dishonest or whatever. And I'd like to see people like at least you can hold an idea like temporarily and consider it, and like you can have charity towards someone and you can say like, if I was in their shoes, what would I maybe do with this text, or how would I respond if I held their views? Like because we're all in this together. Like we all should admit we're not just like, oh, I'm being honest with the text from my view and you're not. And it's just like, have charity. Like, why might somebody say this? What would you say if you were in their position? Is before you decide they're like liars, or I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying like I'd like to
Yeah, I
see
know.
more. I'd like to see more of that happen, and so and keep the dialogue open and actually learn stuff because you can learn something from anybody, even if they're a
Absolutely.
heretic. So that's just my personality, I guess. But
Yeah, like
anyway,
that one guy last night.
oh, who's that? Oh,
Straight up.
Ace. Did you see that?
Hey, man,
Yeah,
that was hard to watch. I stayed for most of it, but it was hard to watch.
yeah, I know. Like I have bouts of like where I'm like, do I really want to like allow somebody to like say all this? But like on another hand, I think to myself, like if I'm gonna take people, if I'm gonna do this or whatever, and in a sense, like put stuff out there that I'm saying is true or not, if I'm gonna do that, like you ought to be able to take on people of other views and say and let them speak, and then and then refute it or disagree with it or show reasons to not believe it, and then that actually should be helpful. Like I wouldn't get him go on my channel and just teach
Free
something and
reign.
lie, right? But yeah, the thing with the kingdom thing is what really irritated me. I wanted him to acknowledge that. He's like, Jesus' kingdom won't last forever, and it's like, dude, there's blatantly tons of verses that say that you're misreading this text. But
And then he was
yeah,
talking about how there was no word. I mean, I might have heard wrong, but it sounded like he was saying that in Hebrew there was no word for eternal.
yeah, I don't. I think there's disagreement in scholarship on this, but like, I would say it seems to me that there is like the suggestion is there. So I would never say it's not there. Like, I mean, they probably had a different
Well, I
conception
looked
than
it
we
up,
do,
and
but
it was
yeah,
there.
yeah, it's in the Strongs. Yeah, they quibble with that, like, and they have their explanations for it. But yeah, like it's obvious. Like if you don't die and you created everything, God's from everlasting to everlasting. I mean, it's pointing as far. It's like there's a sense that the word to them, I think, in the original like Greek and Hebrew and stuff, may have some connotation of like to the end, as far as you can see, kind of thing, like forward in the future. And so like they may have like a slight nuance, different understanding, but I'm not even sure about that, to be honest. I'm just saying, like, yeah, it's strained. I agree with you. It's a strained thing. Like when you put it all together, it's what it's saying. It's not a mistake that people think things are forever from the text. You know what I mean? As we understand forever in any ways. I think they're like
Yeah,
grabbing onto like a stupid little detail, nuanced, minutia about the way the comprehension of that idea was to those people at that time, and then they like make a big deal out of it and try to pretend like they didn't even have an idea about eternal because they have some nuanced, slightly different way of putting that idea together in their head or something. And it's just like, come on, man.
yeah, and I think I should probably I should have done this night before last, clarify my position, like where I come from. I've only been a Christian for about 2 years, so I'm still learning a lot, and I do not hold the once saved always saved position. I do not think Calvinism is true, and yeah, probably lean more towards the Arminian side. But yeah, that's kind of my position of where I'm coming from.
Well, yeah, that's my position as well. I just have, so if you didn't figure it out, I mean, it's nice, come whenever you want or whatever and hang out and, you know, give your 2 cents or whatever. I'm looking for people that are interested in the Bible to participate. And, yeah, I agree with you. That's essentially what my position is. But I do have friends of different persuasions that I respect, and so I just try to be fair, I guess. But I have my opinions and I have my passions or whatever, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay for people to disagree. I mean, you can still be brothers and sisters in Christ and still have disagreements. What I find an issue is whenever people start calling you an unsaved devil and saying that you're a work salvationist or something like that, just for saying that, um, for quoting something like Ephesians chapter 2, 8 through 10. And I can't tell you how many times I've quoted that and been called an unsaved devil or a work salvationist. That just like I don't that bothers me. It
yeah,
bothers me more than it should because I feel like people like that push other people away. They could walk away from the faith because they're like, Christians out here telling me that I'm unsaved and everything I thought I knew was wrong. And yeah, I'm a work salvationist. I'm an unsaved devil, and I think it's bad. It's just really really bad.
yep. I think it's so easy to get caught up in disagreements, and then somebody says something really insulting, and then it really just goes downhill from there. A lot of my disagreements with people have a long backstory, like leading up to it. So yeah, I don't like it when people jump to conclusions, especially if they're going to condemn somebody. Like, be like people should be careful about what they assert if they haven't done proper, checking on what they're talking about somebody. And I really don't like it. Like, I know I can learn from people of all sorts of different backgrounds, even people who I don't think are part of the faith. It's less likely to learn something interesting from someone who's really super has really inerrant, bad ideas or whatever in their faith. But like, you know, they still can have insights if they study the Bible and that you can learn from.
they just may apply it weird or something. But it's easier to have charity with people if you can manage to. But you also got to be careful about not letting it just be all over the place with as far as I have certain things I want to focus on here on the channel, but I think I don't know. I think anyways, I appreciate you coming letting me know your position, and I've seen you in the chat a bunch, and hope you keep coming back. I'm probably going to close it down for now. I got to take care of some stuff here at home before it gets too late. But come back, and I'd love to see you come and join later tonight or whatever, if you can.
Yeah. Absolutely. I usually am.
Yeah, I want to talk to you. So I want to ask you some more questions too. So I hope you can as soon as possible join back in because I want to ask you some more stuff. I just got to kind of have to go suddenly in a sense. So let's do this again. Yeah, it's good talking to meet you.
All right, man. God bless.
God bless.